gonna be different when you talk to, say for example, to Pak Hairil. You will not say, "Hey, dude," but we're gonna say, "Hello, professor," like that. So that's meaning. That's the social meaning. Okay, coming up with the next application in the classroom is about semantic relationships. There's synonyms and antonyms, hyponyms, and hypernyms. Synonyms means the word with a similar meaning, like happy, glad. It has a synonyms. It has a similar meaning. Antonyms means the opposite meaning, like tall, short, things like that. Hyponyms is words that are more specific than the general terms, such as like dog is a hyponym of the animal, and then hypernyms words that more general terms, like animal is the hypernym of a dog, Okay, the next question in the classroom for the semantic is semantic ambiguity. We have the lexical and structural ambiguity. Lexical means when the word has multiple meaning. For the example, the word bank, it can refer to financial institutions or the edge of the river. So that's the lexical ambiguity. And then structural ambiguity, it means the structure of the sentence allow for multiple interpretations. For instance, I saw the man with the telescope. It can be mean either the speaker used the telescope to see the man, or the man was holding a telescope. So it has multiple interpretation. So after above all the meaning and the application in the classroom, we might conclude that semantic has a complex field with many facets. Understanding semantics actually help us to become better communicators and language users. Further study of semantics can lead to insights into human cognitions and culture. That's for the first part, ladies and gentlemen. Now, fellow friends, I would like to invite my friend, Ibu Septi, to explain about pragmatics and or implicatures. Ibu Septi, can you the screen is used?
Okay. Thank you very much for the time. So I will explain about pragmatic implicator. Pragmatic implicator is the implied meaning that is not explicitly stated in an utterance, but it's understood based on context of the conversation. This concept originates from the study of pragmatics, branch of linguistic that examine how meaning is determined by context and the use of language in real situation. And the application in classroom, play a segment of English film for the students and provide them with a simple text from the film, and then ask them to practice conversing based on it. This approach can offer many lessons and inspiration, especially in the context of language learning and cultural understanding. Example, implicator after watching a movie occurs when someone implies something that is not explicitly staged but can be understood based on the context of the movie just watched. After watching a thrill full of suspenseful scenes and a shocking ending, two friends discuss. Student 1, what did you think of the movie? Student 2, well, I'll be looking all my drawers tonight. Here, student 2 doesn't explicitly say that the movie was scary, but from the context of the conversation after watching the movie and the statement about looking doors, the implication is that the movie made them feel scared or anxious. The listeners understand student two meaning through the situation, context, and their shared experience of watching the movie. I think that's all for explanation. I will continue to next.
Ibu Hernita Jufri. Oh.
All right, thank you very much for the time. So the topic that I choose is a metaphor. So what is metaphor? So sorry, move to the next, yes. So metaphor is a form of figurative language, and it is states that one thing is another thing. So metaphor is figurative language. So figurative language, it's mean that words or expression with a meaning that is different from the literal interpretation. As you can see the example of metaphor, the first sentence, her smile was a diamond. So it's directly compare her smile with a diamond, and it means that the diamonds that has quality like brightness or beauty compared with her smile that precious or that can be seen as precious or attractive. So another example is like life is a broken heart. It means that express the idea that life has painful experience. Move to the other slide, please. So there are common types of metaphor. There are extended, mixed, conceptual, and dead metaphor. So four types is also common in understand the metaphor. The first extended metaphor. So it's mean the extent of metaphor. I mean, it's something that sentence, the longer sentence for metaphor, like life is a broken heart, and also continue with the sentence that but we must grab the bull by its horn. So it has also some meaning that we can understand by that sentence. And there are also mixed metaphor, and then conceptual metaphor, and the last is that metaphor. I think for the explanation for the time, I think it's not enough, so I will move to the next. So it is important both for the teacher and the students to know that metaphor is important in learning language. It can be as an explanation. So as explanation, sometimes we cannot express our own idea with a particular thing. So we explain with metaphor, and it also can gain the students' attention by use metaphor. And then sometimes metaphor also can make someone relate, and then it can be the purpose metaphor as a emotion, and then metaphor also can make student or and then the teacher to have a creativity, especially in teaching and learning language, because it has complexity, and then yeah, I think these are the importance of a metaphor. Move to the next, please. All right. So there are some, I think there are some application that the teacher used to apply this metaphor in English teaching and learning. For the first is using conceptual metaphor theory to emphasize the basic of vocabulary. So when teacher use metaphorical language to convey knowledge, students will respond in a specific way. For example, the the sentence time time is the metaphor about time. So one student may claim that time is important, while another say that time is valuable. So it can gain the students' understanding about the time as well as the linguistic creativity. So metaphor can be effective tool for student learning a language. And the second way that we can use is in context of writing. So a metaphor can lead the generate narrative, can lead to generate narrative. In writing class, a teacher can formulate a metaphorical expression and ask the student to interpret it in the form of narrative. So in this case, for example, the teacher can give the student form of metaphors, and then the teacher can the students can write their interpretation about that sentence, and then the teacher may has grammar correction. I think after the activity in writing, the next steps is a teaching work in teaching by correct grammar. So correction is needed if teacher found mistakes, so it can give the students inspiration. I think for the conclusion, for the next, please. Yeah, so understanding metaphor in language teaching is an important starting from the teacher. The teacher needs to dig deeply the students' experience to get the initial meaning, and finally make use a representative metaphor that leads them to the creativity. I think that is all my quick explanation about metaphor. I'll give back to the next presenter.
Ibu Putri? Are you monitor, Ibu Putri?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Putra Piantiapa, and I'll explain about the speech acts in pragmatics. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, so in pragmatics, a speech act refers to an utterance that performs a function beyond simply conveying information. The concept largely, no, before. Yeah, thank you. The concept largely developed by philosophers like G.L. Austin and John Searle, and they categorize speech acts into several types. For the first is locutionary acts, the actual act of saying something, focusing on the literal meaning of the words. And the second one is illocutionary acts. This is the intended meaning behind the utterance, reflecting the speaker's intentions, such as making a request, giving an order, and making a promise. And then there is perlocutionary acts, the effect that the utterance has on the listener, such as persuading, convincing, or surprising them. So speech acts are often analyzed in terms of their context and the social norms governing communication. Understanding these acts can provide insight into how language functions in social interactions and how meaning is constructed beyond words. And next, please. Next, please. Next. Okay, thank you. And this is the application in the classroom. For the first is locutionary act. In the case, literal meaning exercises, and the description is we have a students read or listen to sentences and identify the literal meaning. For the example, present sentences like the cat is on the roof and ask students to paraphrase it, ensuring they grasp the basic facts of the statement. And the second is illocutionary act. For the activity, we can use intention identification. For the description, engage students in identifying the speaker's intention behind various statements. And for the example, it provides them with statements like, could you help me with this? And discuss what the speaker really asking. Encourage students to think about how context change the intent behind the words. And the last is perlocutionary act. For the activity, we can use the role-playing scenarios. For the description, we can create scenarios where students role-play conversations, focusing on the effects of their words. And for the example, one student says, it's getting late, while another must respond based on how they interpret the statement, such as suggesting to leave or stay longer. Discuss how different responses reflect varying perlocutionary outcomes. And next, please. Okay, for the conclusion, by integrating the speech act into a classroom activities, you help students develop a deeper understanding of communication dynamics, improving both their language skills and their ability to interact effectively with others. Thank you. That's from me.
Pak Ardin, we return the screen on you. It's done from our team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for group one about the presentation. So I think maybe Mr. Hairil would like to give the Edmund?
Yeah, good presentations overall. I think you have made use of the materials in a very good way. And you have also addressed what I was asking you to do, yeah, during the first session about the assignment, yeah. So the instruction was discuss the question in group. Okay, how can my understanding of one of the aspects of language philosophy be used to help make my students learn English better and me teach English better? Okay. And in the presentation that we have just had, yeah, the 4 presenters talked about 4 different things. Number 1, it was semantics in general. Number 2, it's what was it? Speech
Method.
acts. Is that right?
Implicatures.
Oh, implicatures, yeah, and then speech acts, and then pragmatics. Is that right?
Metaphor.
Metaphor.
Okay. Yeah.
Metaphor.
Yeah. So 4 different things, yeah. Implicature, speech acts, metaphors, and pragmatics. However, if I'm not mistaken, only 2 of the topics discussed have made an effort to discuss the implications for English language teaching and learning. Kalau saya tidak salah itu tadi ada 2 ya. But what I can remember clearly is the last one, yang pragmatics. Ada contoh-contoh about how this will be understood in the classroom context. Saya lupa yang satu lagi ya, kalau saya tidak salah mungkin itu speech acts atau apa ya, yang ada contoh itu. Maybe that's the thing that you have to focus more on, okay? Because your presentation was followed by people from the other groups who will work on their own essays about each of the particular topics that you have presented. Then they will have to think about what they're going to write, yeah, for their essay. Jadi mungkin contoh itu yang perlu diperjelas ya, perbanyak gitu. This is something that I was expecting ya the presenters to talk about. Jadi sebaiknya memang diangkat kasus-kasus nyata yang ada dalam kelas ya. Because if you're talking about theory, I think we have had enough theories, alright? Di S1 Anda sudah belajar teori-teori linguistics, dan ini adalah kelanjutan dari apa yang sudah dilakukan di S1. And I would like you to be, well, of course you have to understand linguistics, but in the end, what we expect from people with postgraduate qualifications is an increased competency in the profession, which is teaching English, of course. Yeah, that's the reason behind why I ask you to try and think about the implications of what you read in the materials for language teaching. What is happening in the classroom. Sudah ada contoh tadi, cuma masih kurang banyak ya gitu ya. Jadi ini mungkin jadi catatan buat presenter-presenter yang akan datang untuk memikirkan hal-hal seperti itu. So for example, the first thing touched upon in the presentation was semantics. And semantics can be a very potential topic to discuss for English teachers. of course, you don't teach your students semantics. You don't teach your students the linguistics of English by teaching them semantics literally or per se. Ya, Anda kan tidak mengajarkan semantics di kelas ya. And your students at any stage of their learning, they don't need to know that there's such thing as semantics ya. Anak-anak itu kan di SMP, SMA gitu ya. Untuk apa mereka tahu tuh semantics? What they need to know is how you apa itu? How semantics is practiced in the real life. In their real life here means in their process of learning English. Nah, itu yang seharusnya diangkat ya. Jadi seperti kalau kita bicara semantics, kira-kira masalah apa dalam kelas yang relevan dengan topik semantics itu. Anda kan sudah punya pengalaman sebagai guru ya, sebagian guru, sebagian baru lulus S1, but I think most of you have, I can say that most of you have had the experience of both ya. At least you have had the experience of learning English. Kalau belum ada kesempatan mengajar ya, at least you have had the experience of learning English at various stages of your education, mulai dari SD sampai S1 katakanlah seperti itu ya. And for those of you who have been on the job for some time ya, no matter in what position, itu Anda sudah punya pengalaman maybe ya teaching ya. Jadi kalau sebagian besar punya pengalaman belajar, sebagian di sini sudah punya pengalaman mengajar. Jadi saya yakin Anda punya cerita yang bisa dibagikan di sini ya. You can share with us the stories from the classroom, stories from the classrooms about all the things that we have discussed in the first session tonight. Ya, jadi misalnya semantics tadi itu ya. Can you tell me something that is relevant to semantics that you have experienced as a student or as a teacher? Gitu. Kira-kira apa? Yang bahasa Inggris tentunya ya, yang berhubungan dengan bahasa Inggris. Ada tidak kasus
when
nyata yang bisa?
I-
Oh ya, coba silakan Bu
yes,
Safia.
sir. When my students try to express how happy they are, they use this expression, I'm happy, and some other people say, some other students say, I'm over the moon. And also some people, my students said, I'm so, yeah, not so bad gitu. Jadi some people, jadi they use the words of happy, the meaning is the same, but they use different words to express how happy they are. Especially when I said no homework for today. Oh yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. You're so good. You are so nice for today. That's all. So itu adalah ekspresi senang mereka, tapi in different ways. So that's how I found out the semantic, because indeed they express their happiness in different ways. So I thought that semantics in terms of apa tadi itu ya, synonyms ya. They have
Oke, that's one example. Tapi ada tidak contoh-contoh misalnya when they get the meaning of a word right or when they get the meaning of a word wrong, itu ada tidak yang gitu-gitu? And that becomes your job, ya. If they get the meaning of a word wrong, what would you do as a teacher in that situation? Kan sering ada kasus seperti itu ya. Students saying something using a certain word, but using it incorrectly because that's not the word that they use is not the correct word for the context of what they're trying to say. Jadi situ kan Anda sebagai guru pasti you will interfere and correct them whether directly or indirectly. Saya sering menemui hal seperti itu di kampus ya.
Yeah. Example, when I said when when my students have this science project in the classroom, and then they try to explain in using the words in English like split and divide, because it has the same meaning but different use. Like split kan saya membagi siswa sekian kelompok, and then saya membagi rotinya menjadi 2 potong. So that's 2 different types. So they said I cut the people into 2 groups, and they said no, you didn't say cut, because you cannot cut the people. You may say that I split the groups into I split the people into 2 groups, or I divide it into 2 groups. So when the things for the things you use the word cut, if you really want to break it up into 2 things, format into 2. But for the person, for one whole things, you don't use the cut, because you cannot cut the people. You just split or divide the people into 2 groups. That's
Okay. That's a good point.
one example.
But do you correct them directly or indirectly?
Directly, by the way, I just simply say the words. You mean you split the person? You mean you split your friend into 2 groups, right? Not you cut. Yes, ma'am. That's what I mean, ma'am. I split into. Pokoknya saya bagi 2 lah, ma'am. Dia bilang gitu. So yeah, instead of saying the word cut.
Yeah. Kenapa saya tanya how do you correct them? Yeah, because that is a very clear instructional situation, you know, that requires you to think of the best way to do it. Kan begini ya, mengoreksi orang itu katanya ada 2 cara itu, yang paling utama itu, secara langsung dan secara tidak langsung. In English, when you're dealing with students learning a second language or a foreign language, you can correct students' errors directly or indirectly. Katanya it's better to do it indirectly because it will because you are aware of the students' psychological
Save their dignities or something.
yeah. Because you think of them, you don't want to demotivate them, you don't want to embarrass them in front of their friends.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you correct them, but you still put them in a safe place. You still try to save their face, yeah, or their faces. Nah, jadi ada instructional implications dari the way you do the correction in response to a semantic problem. Okay, that's one thing, because we have to be quick here. The second thing is about implicatures. Tadi kayaknya saya nggak ingat persis ya, but I don't think I hear anything about the real life situations in the explanation or in the presentation. Atau I was wrong, yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't hear real life examples about implicatures that have instructional implications. Ada tidak tadi sempat dibahas oleh penyajinya? Karena saya yakin ada kasus-kasus yang berkaitan dengan implicatures in the classroom.
Excuse me, can I share again the?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, anyone from the group can do it.
This one, sir.
Oh, okay.
In pragmatics, implicature. This is
No, okay.
Play a segment of English film.
Mm-hmm. And what is the purpose of doing this? Playing, showing them a film.
Mm-hmm.
What is the well, I can guess what the instructional implications are, but in terms of apa itu tadi? Implicatures, what purpose does this serve by playing them a movie or film in English?
And these things, the teacher asked them to practice practice conversing based on the segments they saw.
Oh, oke. Jadi
So
nonton, kemudian
practice
i-
conversing, practice
uh,
and conversing the based on the
you mean impersonating the I
the
mean
segment.
a scene from the film or the movie, begitu?
Yeah,
Menirukan satu adegan gitu, tapi berbahasa Inggris.
yeah, kind of like that.
Hmm. And what has it got to do with implicatures?
This one. Helping out with the
Hmm.
helping them enriching their vocabulary and expression along with the intonation and pronunciation.
Oh, okay. So by doing this,
Mhm.
or from the perspective of the teacher, by asking the students to do this, you enable them to learn new vocabulary and phrases. Begitu ya? Okay. And you think that movies in English dari manapun berasal ya, from Hollywood or from other English-speaking countries, can serve this purpose? I mean, Anda bisa ambil scenes from the movies for classroom practice? Gitu ya?
Yeah.
Ya, kebetulan ini saya lagi baru selesai, baru saja. Ini yang membuat saya kurang fit ya. Saya baru menyelesaikan paper tentang teknik yang digunakan mahasiswa S2 yang saya bimbing untuk melatih public speaking ya. Dan teknik yang digunakan itu adalah transcription and impersonation. Jadi katanya salah satu cara melatih anak-anak untuk bisa public speaking, melakukan pidato maksudnya ya, pidato dalam bahasa Inggris, is by asking them to watch a video of a person of a well-known person giving a speech in English, make a transcription of the speech, and then later on impersonate the person, menirukan cara dia pidato ya. Tapi setelah membuat transkripsi tentunya. Jadi transkripsi dibuat dulu, kemudian you ask the students to memorize all the words, and then later on you impersonate the person doing the speech by also utilizing the memorized parts of the speech. Nah, itu katanya bisa jadi, bukan katanya ya, terbukti secara ilmiah bisa meningkatkan kemampuan murid untuk memberi pidato dalam bahasa Inggris. Maybe this can be applied after watching a movie. Ya, cuma kan begini ya, ini tergantung how flexible you are as a teacher to practice what you want to practice in the classroom, given the current curriculum that you have to implement. Jadi ini dua hal yang berbeda ya, ingin menerapkan teknik-teknik seperti ini secara bebas, tapi dalam konteks Anda juga harus menerapkan misalnya kurikulum merdeka di sekolah dan sebagainya. How flexible is it for you to do this? Itu kan jadi pertanyaan gitu ya. Because as I understand it, the teaching of English in schools currently are based on a completely different set of theories gitu ya. Teori yang diterapkan kan berbeda sekali ya bahasa Inggris di sekolah-sekolah sekarang. It is based on what they refer to as systemic functional linguistics. SFL itu kan, systemic functional linguistics, yang memandang bahwa the language has to be taught not as forms or grammar but as functions. Dan karena itu yang diajarkan kepada anak-anak itu adalah teks gitu kan. Berbagai jenis teks, because they say that it is the text is how people use language. Jadi setiap saat kita membuat teks ya, bercerita, bernalar, melakukan analisis, menceritakan langkah-langkah melakukan sesuatu dan seterusnya. Those are the texts that we use all the time ya, as a language user. in any language, dalam bahasa apapun, it's not just in English. In any language that you use, you create text all the time. Dan itulah yang ditiru, ya. Dan itu sebabnya pendidikan bahasa Inggris di sekolah-sekolah sekarang berbasis genre, ya. Genre itu artinya jenis-jenis teks. Nah, in this context, in the context of the implementation of the genre-based approach in schools, how flexible is it? How much